During the 18th century, not only the Enlightenment happened. You remember in the previous unit we studied how the Enlightenment started making people think differently and making people get more and more cultivated. This is a minority because most of the population, of course, they will remain illiterate. But the Enlightenment thinkers, they will have an influence of them. And the high bourgeoisie, the bourgeoisie, will be more cultivated. And people who are not able to read, they will listen to people who read. So we studied the liberalism, the economic liberalism. And in this unit we are going to study the liberalism, but not only from the economic point of view, but from the political and social point of view. What happened in the 18th century? This liberalism, these liberal ideologies, they led to a different process, social and political processes. That means here you can see in this image how the old regime, king and the representatives of the old regime, the clergy, the nobility, they are a small group, and the rest of population, that's a huge amount of population, they are questioning the social state, the way society is. So it will be more and more difficult for these privileged people to maintain their privileges. Now we are going to analyze the different principles. These liberals, these liberal thinkers, they propose principles, and how these principles are viewed from the absolutism system, the political absolutism, and the political liberalism, how they see the same principles. For example, the first one will be the sovereignty. You know, sovereignty is who is the owner of the country. According to absolutism, the king is the only sovereign. Because of that we say in Spanish, we say soberano, we say rey or soberano. That means is the one who's the owner of the country. That's according to absolutism. That's according to this new ideology, to this liberalism. The sovereignty belongs to people, and people give the power to the king to rule the country. But the real sovereignty, the real property is on the hands of people. So sovereignty from different points of view. Another important principle is the power. Who is the owner of the power? So according to liberalism, the power should be divided. We should make three different branches of power: legislative power, executive power, and judicial power. According to absolutism, there is only one source of power, and that's the king. The king should have the three powers: legislative, executive, and judicial. Everything depends on king, because the source of king's power is God, and people cannot change God's decisions, of course. Another principle is the suffrage. Suffrage is the capacity of voting. How can we choose the rulers? According to absolutism, of course, the suffrage doesn't exist. The king has all the power, and the king is the ruler. That's all. According to the liberalism, people should choose their representatives, the ruler. People should choose the ruler. There is another principle, that it's the law. Where does the law come from? According to absolutism, guess where is the source of law? Of course, the king. The king is the one who produces, who issues the laws. He's creating laws, and the rest of the population must obey. According to liberalism, the law must be created by people. And the best way to do that is create a constitution. Constitution or a Bill of Rights or something like that. So in this case, there you can see the Spanish Constitution and the last one, the United States Constitution. This is a source of law. Every law, every different legislation should come from this Constitution. Laws in the United States, laws in Spain, they must be under the Constitution. They cannot say something different from the Constitution. If they say something different, it's unconstitutional. That means it's completely illegal. Other important principle is the equality or inequality. According to absolutism, there are two different kinds of people. There are the privileged people and the unprivileged people. And that's all, because we are different. The privileged people, they have certain capabilities. They are more cultivated people, they are warriors, and non-privileged people, unprivileged people, they are able to work, and that's easy. Everybody can work. So according to liberalism, we should be completely equal. And of course, justice should be equal for everyone, because everybody, we are human beings, exactly the same. And according to thinking, this is an important principle for the liberalism. Liberals think differently from absolutists. For example, from the absolutist point of view, the thinking must be controlled, because there are certain thinkings that are not correct. We must protect society from bad thoughts. Because of that, censor exists. And according to liberalism, that's completely different. There should be a completely freedom of press. So anyone can write whatever he decides, and we should be able to read different opinions and then make our own opinion. And another principle is the economic principle. According to liberalism, because you studied that in the previous unit, the Adam Smith idea was the freedom to buy and freedom to produce. Remember, this is The Wealth of Nations, written by Adam Smith. And according to absolutism, the king should control production, king and guilds, because the guilds are associations, very important associations, because they started during the Middle Ages, so they have been working for hundreds of years, and the king is controlling the most important factories. For example, here you can see two examples of Spanish royal factories. Remember, liberalism says everybody should be able to produce the way they prefer, and that is opposed to the royal factories, because these royal factories, they have the monopoly. Nobody else can produce, for example in this case, Fábrica de Artillería, nobody can produce weapons, big weapons, only the king's factory or this textile factory. According to liberalism or to absolutism, people are completely different. So according to absolutism, people are just subjects of the king or the queen in this case. And according to liberalism, the rulers should be the representatives of people. So people should explain their opinions through their representatives, but actually their real opinions. And last principle is the relationship between the church and the state. According to the absolutism, the church is very important, because these European countries are Christian European countries since hundreds of years. So there is a tradition, there is a true religion, of course, and then the state must be protecting this church. According to liberalism, they say state and church should be separate, and state work about the material problems, and the church work about spiritual problems. Because of that, they should be different administrations, and the state shouldn't support the church or vice versa. And all of that will lead to an opposition against kings. For example, in this picture you can see Louis XIV. This is the symbol for the absolutism. This is the best known absolutist king, and here is represented with all his attributes, his sword symbolizing the army, the crown, the scepter. Everything is focused on the king. The king is the source of all power, and this liberalism will be questioning this. And it will be questioning this in different ways. In a moderate way, that means liberals who want to make reforms, who are not exactly opposed to kings. They are opposed to certain characteristics. They want a moderate monarchy. They don't want to eliminate kingdoms, for example. They prefer to make parliamentary monarchies or constitutional monarchy. And there is another group that is the radicals, and these radicals, they want to change completely the social system, because they think that it's not reasonable, and if they believe in equality about people, we should be all of us completely equal, and not kings more important than others. So they don't want just reforms, they want to change completely the system.